Hey guys, what's up? I do apologize if there's any lag. Apparently my laptop wants to load a little bit. You know, you know how that is with PCs and computers. That you want to try to do something and they want to load to be like, hey, I'm priority number one, and I'm not saying it isn't, but still, it's like, come on, seriously, we're trying to work here. But anyway, you see the title You see the title basically of the video. As I double check something here. But like I say, you see the title of the video. And yeah, it's hard to believe that it's going to be 30, it's going to be 30 years basically. Um, basically, it's going to be 30 years since this, So I think it's time we hold on. Let me just double check something. Here we go. But yeah, it's hard to. Hold on. I don't know why YouTube's been doing this lately with the apps. I don't know. I don't know why it does this at times. I do apologize. I don't know what's going on here. I do apologize. I don't know why YouTube does that lately. There it is. Just I don't know why YouTube does that. That's what I was trying to say. I don't know why YouTube does that lately with the apps. All of a sudden, it's like it catches the last video you were watching, like the audio. So I don't know why it does that. But anyway, like I said, welcome to the 30th. Welcome to this live Archie Sonic SatAM discussion, the 30th anniversary of both. That's right. It's hard to believe that this year, towards the end of it at least I would say in the late summer towards the fall season, it's going to be hard to believe that that's going to mark basically late summer, early fall. Maybe I'm wrong on that too, but basically, let's just put it away. We don't know exactly the timetable or anything, but I mean, I'm sure some do. But basically, let's put it this way: midsummer, early fall is going to mark 30 years since the Archie Sonic book came out. And this precedes, believe it or not, the cartoon by almost a year. Now, this, of course, was the comic that came out around that time frame, mid-summer, early fall, was the original 4-part miniseries. Basically, the introduction, issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, and I think maybe issue 4. So 4 or 5-part original. Well, actually, the original 4-part miniseries was basically issue 0 to 3. And it wouldn't be until the following year that the comic would officially, get the green light to be a full-on comic, which I think they pretty much knew was going to happen anyway. And let me double check something here, guys. Let me double check something, and I want to make sure I avoid copyright. You know how YouTube is with copyright. Okay, just making sure. But yeah, basically it's going to be 30 years since the comic initially debuted in the midsummer, early fall. Basically, got its first footsteps in the summer and early fall of 1992. And like I said, that was just the original miniseries before it got a green light in 1993. And it was greenlit in 1993 due to the fact that one of the episodes for the first season of Sonic SatAM was based on it. It was based on the comic itself, because the comic was going off of the original concept of the Bible, basically the Bible that they created, the story Bible that they had created for the show. So it's going off that. And the original first episode, Heads or Tails, from the cartoon series, was going off that as well. And Heads or Tails, basically, when I first saw it, and I've said this many times before, it felt like, an issue of the early versions of the comic come to life. It felt like that, especially with the fact that they originally aired the pilot at the end of the series. And I'm thinking, whoa, this is kind of unique. This is kind of out of nowhere. What is this? And honest to God, my first thought process was it was a special episode. Because sometimes, shows or franchises, sometimes will have those special episodes or something like that, right? They will have the special episodes and such. Well, it felt like that. It felt like one of those special episodes, like the ones you would see in primetime. It felt like that. But as we found out later on, and we see it get replayed, even before finding out more information about it later on, that it's actually part of the series. And like I said, further research later on in the years that followed, we find out that Heads or Tails was actually the pilot, and that Heads or Tails was essentially was giving us the idea that not only we were going to see these comedic kind of hybrid adventures of Sonic and the Freedom Fighters in the early versions of the comics, which was basically a blend of adventures and SatAM. But Heads or Tails basically gave us pretty much an insight of, had this been the direction they gone in, that it's basically that basically along with the comics that we were reading, we would also be watching half-hour adventures that were identical to what we would see in the comics. But thankfully, believe it or not, that's not what they decided to do. They decided basically, after Heads or Tails, to go in a different direction, a more darker, grittier direction than what was originally planned. But the one thing about Heads or Tails was, again, it gave us an insight. It gave us a clue as to basically, it gave us a clue basically as to what the show was going to be like, had, the original concept gone through. I mean, you look at what I posted up here on my channel. Basically somebody, and I found this basically, so I don't know where I found it originally. I think I found it on one of the websites or something. But somebody had gained some footage from the 1992 CES convention. And part of the CES convention, they showed, well, of course they would show a lot of programming and stuff that was coming to broadcast television. They were showing off some of the latest technology and stuff. Well, part of the presentation for Saturday mornings on ABC, they showed the original intro to Sonic SatAM. Basically, like I said, giving us an idea of, hey, what you were reading in the original comics when they first started was essentially, as I said, going to be what was originally planned for Saturday mornings. Basically, it was going to be like half-hour adventures that felt like the early versions of the comic come to life. And that's what Heads or Tails was giving us a look at. But, thankfully, they went in a different direction. Now, the one question everybody's wondering, is why did they show Heads or Tails, as the last episode? Why did they do it? If it's the pilot, why not show it first? Because I think what happened is, in my opinion, Archie Comic, not Archie Comic, but Deke Animation went to ABC, showed them what the idea was, and I think this was during the time of the CES presentations and all that. They went to ABC, showed them what the concept was going to be, and ABC was like, yeah, we like the concept, but, there's just something off about it. And I think what happened is Lynn Jensen or whoever, somebody in charge decided, okay, what could we do to fix this? So I think what happened is they had two versions of the show. They had the version that was kind of hinted at with Heads or Tails, and then they had the other one that we saw originally with the debut of Supersonic, which, despite what people will say, Supersonic, as far as I know, was the very first episode aired. It was the first episode aired. It was the episode that was given the sneak peek the night before on the TGIF Saturday morning sneak peek special. And like I said, the next day, it was the episode that I saw. So to me, Supersonic was the premiere episode for the entire series. But the pilot had already been finished, and they still wanted to show that. So my guess is when they presented both versions of the show, like the one we got with Heads or Tails, and then the one we got with Supersonic, the ABC execs were like, they looked at both and they were like, boom, almost, there was no debating. In my opinion, this is my opinion. I'm guessing they saw both versions, and without hesitation, without debating, they looked at the Supersonic one and said, that one. We want that one. And the rest is history. That's my opinion. That's my opinion, if you will. That basically they looked at both. Like they were presented with both options, and they said, without hesitation, the one that we got for the premiere is the one they wanted. And that's what happened. That's what happened. We ended up getting that one over Heads or Tails, but because Heads or Tails was already made and ready to go, my thought is they realized, well, we could do all the episodes like this, which they did, basically, as what we knew from the first season, and would evolve in the second season. They probably realized and agreed to do the episodes the way, Supersonic was presented, with those designs and stuff, and that setting in story and story elements. But because they had Heads or Tails, like I said, already in the can, in my opinion, if you will, I think ABC allowed them to have that. Like, they let ABC know, hey, we got this finished and ready to go. We don't want it just to, just sit there and collect dust. We don't want it to just sit there and collect dust. We want to do something with it. We want to show off our work. And the people in charge of children's programming at ABC at the time were probably like, hey, no problem. You want to make it part, you want to add it on as part of the initial season's lineup of episodes? Not a problem. However, you could only do so if it's the final episode, of the season, of the initial season. And I think that's why Heads or Tails became the final episode of the first season, because ABC, gave them the green light to include it, but only at the end, so that we as fans could get an idea unknowingly of what the original concept for the show was going to be. And like I said, when I saw it, and I'm sure anybody else felt the same way, I felt like it was just a special edition of the series, a special edition, comic book, special edition, if you will, of the series brought to life, because it was just like out of nowhere. It was like just completely out of nowhere that you suddenly are seeing the designs you would see in the early issues of the comic, brought to life in animation. But like I said, we find out later on that was basically because, it was the pilot episode. It was the pilot episode. But, the thing is though, with the show overall, to me, when I look at something like Heads or Tails, I look at something that really, honestly, people could say, oh, you could watch the first season out of order and all that, or any order you want, because basically the first season was an introductory season. That's what it was. The first season, the initial season, was an introductory season to set up everything that was going on in the show, to set up the fact that Robotnik had already taken over, to set up the fact that here was this group of resistant freedom fighters trying to take it back. Basically that was the goal. That was the goal of it, right off the bat, as well as to establish that it was going to be unlike any other, video game adaptation into an animated series that you'd seen in quite a while. Like this was going to be completely different. And it was. And I think the reason they also went with the design and concept that we got right off the bat, instead of, starting out with heads or tails and then literally jumping into this new concept, like, because, I guess they didn't want us to get so accustomed to, oh, we're going to get the Archie comics on the, as an animated, the Archie comics version of Sonic as an animated series. Cool. My thought on that is they probably didn't want us to, they didn't want us to get, accustomed to that, or, too excited for that. And then all of a sudden, here's this different take on it the following week, which is why, like I said, they left it for last, asked and everything, or at least agreed, okay, we'll do it the way you want. We'll do it the way you, feel more attractive to, because obviously the people at ABC's Children Networking knew, hey, if, fans like, Pirates of Dark Water, which was on ABC, if fans like Wild West Cowboys and Moo Mesa, which was on ABC, if they like, if they like SWAT Cats, which was for a brief time on ABC, whether people knew that or not, they pretty much said, hey, fans, they probably, when they chose the Sonic, they chose the, the grittier version of SatAM over the more hybrid version. Basically they chose it because they knew, hey, that would be more of a hit than the hybrid version that they were presenting. So again, like I said, basically, I don't think they really wanted fans to get accustomed so much, in my opinion, to what was going to be presented to them, to what was being presented to them initially with heads or tails, and then all of a sudden just be, taken aback by the sudden change in atmosphere and storytelling the following week, and decided, hey, we'll just, keep heads or tails as like a special episode to air at the end, to kind of give fans something, different, to kind of give fans, at that time, sort of an idea of, hey, we were planning to bring the, early versions of the Archie comics to animation life, and this is what it was going to be like. Because again, like I said, a lot of us thought, in my opinion, or at least this is what I thought, honestly, in my opinion, that we were seeing the comics coming to life, with that, final episode of Heads or Tails. But, it's like people say, you can look at the first season and watch it in any order you want. I mean, if you want to watch Heads or Tails, now that we know what we know about it, being designed the way, basically what I'm trying to say is, now that we know the reason, for it being designed the way it was, like some people, like let's say Rob the Wonderful and others have pointed out, you could watch the episodes in any order you want. And like I was trying to say, even in that even includes, what I was trying to say, that even includes watching Heads or Tails first and then benching all the other remaining episodes of the first season in any way you want, because hey, Heads or Tails was initially the pilot, even though it was originally shown last at the end of the first season. But as I was saying, the initial season, and I'm sure Jacob Berkeley and others that are helping to contribute to his book, which is the complete history of Sonic SatAM, if you will. Little plug for that there. Check him out at SatAM Historian on Twitter to get up-to-date information on the book. But anyway, what was I trying to say? Oh yeah, the initial season basically was an introductory season, as I was saying earlier. It was basically giving you an idea of what was going on, what the story was, who the characters were, if you hadn't read the comics that much, or at least give you an idea that, hey, yes, or if you had read the comics, I should say, that they wanted to give you pretty much an idea, a clue of, yes, these are the same characters, but this is a different take on them, a different atmosphere, if you will. And that that basically all the stories that came throughout the entire first season, well, like I said, was just setting you up and giving you an idea of what was going on. It was like, what was the situation they were in. And hold on for a sec. Excuse me. Hello? Yes. All right. Well, I do. Well, like I said, I do take the bus, and bus legs. I know that it runs about 8 or 7 or something like that. And I do want to get as much training and knowledge about what's going on there as I can. So, I, I could make. I could see that bus is going on there, but depending on the situation, I don't like any of that.
Okay, do you want to check on that and just let me know? I'm going to schedule you to come, but I'm just kind of like determining how long you can stay. So check and see how.
Well, I got the bus. I got the bus schedule with me right now.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Let me just check it. Let me just pull it out here. I do appreciate you guys calling because I was already setting my alarm for early. Because the bus schedule basically if I would have gone in there at 8, I would have had to take the 5:45 in the morning. Yeah. So let's see. The latest it leaves your area is 7:11. That's the latest it leaves. Yeah.
Here. So if I get there, just let them know you're coming here for orientation.
Mm-hmm.
They'll walk you over. Make sure that you wear the uniform right on top.
Mm-hmm.
No pants, no labels, no highlights. Always red shirt. And Jackie, the red machine.
Oh, I got blue jeans. I already went out and got my red shirts. Believe me, I already got those things done. And I got blue jeans. I'm all set.
Okay. As long as the jeans are not no.
Okay. Okay. Okay, no problem. All right, thank you for letting me know. I would have woke up early for nothing. All right, thank you. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 1. Okay, sorry about that, guys. That was just my job calling me, telling me that well, like I said, that was my new job calling me, letting me know that they're rescheduling orientation at 1 tomorrow. So that's about it. Let me take some of you guys. Hide that. Okay. Yeah, but as I was saying, basically and again, I do apologize for that. Excuse me. That was just like I said, my new job calling up and telling me, hey, we rescheduled till 1. They did tell me that was going to probably happen, that they may have to reschedule and everything, but I didn't know it was going to be like 6 hours, several hours later, which isn't a big deal because I think the bus that I could take, I think I'm still going to have to leave early, no doubt. So let me double check that. It's a good thing I have the bus schedule with me, and it gives me plenty of time then, because I gotta be here for my dog and everything. So let me check here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to probably take the what's the other one? I do apologize for this, guys, but it's important. I gotta check this. Oh, here we go. That means I would have to take the 11 o'clock one. So I have to basically take the 11 o'clock one, if you will. It'd get me there. Oh, it'd give me there in time to get some lunch and all that. It'd take me time to. It'd give me some time to get some lunch and everything, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Anyway, though, guys, what was I? Oh yeah, the first season, like I said, was basically an introductory season to give you an idea of what was going on, what the situation was, as well as if you were reading the Archie comics at the time, to kind of give you an idea that yes, these are the same characters that you're currently reading in the comics, but this is a different setting for them, if you will, as well as sort of a different take, if you catch my drift. And some people, as I mentioned earlier, like Rob the Wonderful, who I saw his review earlier. He did a review on it, I think 2 years ago, actually, to this day. Well, not to this day, but to this month. And he basically said it best, that you could watch it in any order, that being the first season, and you wouldn't be missing out on anything, chronologically or continuity wise. It wouldn't be, though. However, though, and I'm sorry for the lag there, I do apologize. It wouldn't be, though, until the second season in which continuity would play a huge factor, if you will. And they did touch upon some elements from the first season. Like if you watch the episode Sonic Inversion, it definitely gives you the callback to Ultrasonic with, how Uncle Chuck gets his free will back temporarily and all that, like he did in Ultrasonic, which was a first season episode. So that was a nice little callback. It also kind of was a callback to what we saw in that same episode as well, because I think it was in that episode of the first season, Ultrasonic, and I think another one or so that the second season actually touched upon, where we find out that the reason, well, we kind of get a clue basically right at the beginning of season 2 and moving forward, that what they were doing in some of the episodes of season 1, especially like Ultrasonic, when they were looking for spare roboticizer parts, well, we kind of get an answer as to what that was. We get an answer as to what that was in Sonic Inversion, and sort of get a clue as to what that was in the episode that preceded that, which was Game Guy, which was the season 2 premiere. And that was the fact that they were building their own de-roboticizer. That's right. They were trying to create their own de-roboticizer so that they can basically, I would say, I wouldn't say recapture, but I would say basically they would essentially take a hold, if you will, of their freed comrade, or the enslaved comrades, I should say, because the initial plan, and you get an idea of what they were going to do in Sonic Inversion. This, like I said, the second episode of the second season, that the plan basically, and even Sally explains this in the episode, is to gather is to basically, I guess temporarily free up their friends, like they did, Uncle Chuck, or do something of that matter, maybe recapture them, and then, and then basically, put them into the de-roboticizer and, basically restore them to normal. And like I said, you kind of get that idea basically you kind of start you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, essentially, with with Ultrasonic from the first season, and then of course Game Guy and more so Sonic Conversion in the second season. But the second season, like I said, is when continuity really mattered, because Game Guy introduced us to the Void. Game Guy, through Ari, a new character, introduced us to the fact that there was a list of freedom fighters, and that these freedom fighter groups that are on this list are looking for Sally. That was a good moment to have there, because you knew or hoped that they would touch upon it later on. And guess what? They did. They did come back to that in The Void, which is an episode that was a prelude to the Doomsday Saga. That's right. The Void was a prelude to the Doomsday Saga. And like a lot of people said, you could take the filler episode of the Antoine shorts that they did after Blast of the Past, Part 2, as well as after The Void. You could take those out and nothing would be amiss, period. And basically, go from there. And The Void, like I said, was, a prelude to the Doomsday Project, because we find out in the Void episode that, that Robotnik is working on something known as Doomsday, or as the Doomsday Project. And the Void episode, again, follows up on the list that Ari talked about, follows up on Ari being in the Void and getting freed from the Void, follows up from Blast of the Past Part 2, where we find out that, basically, along with Sally, that the Void, as we saw in Blast of the Past 2, is where, the king went. And as well as we find out, who this Nagus character is that was mentioned in Blast of the Past Part 2 before Robotnik sent the king into the Void to join him. So, a lot of continuity was really shoveled into season 2 and done in a great way. It's like they mentioned it, they touched upon it, and then they came back to it later on, which I thought was great. Really, really tremendous, tremendous work on their part, if you know what I mean. I mean, like I said, you look at Blast of the Past Part 2 and the king being sent into the Void. Robotnik mentions Nagus. We're thinking, who the heck is this Nagus guy? And instead of just leaving it out there, for us to just ponder and wonder forever, they followed up on it in the Void. And they used the Void, like I said, not only to follow up on that, but to prelude us to the Doomsday Project saga, as well as follow up on the fact that, now Sally's going to find out, because it, pretty much established in the first season, one of the things she wants to do is find her father, because I think we're kind of given a clue, especially in the Void episode, that if there's one person besides Sonic, and even to an extent Nagus, that Robotnik worries about, being free and out there, to ruin his plans, it's the king. It's the king, if you will. And basically, like I said, this Void episode follows up on that, if you will. It basically follows up, I should say, on, the king being sent into the Void, but it also follows up, as I was trying to say, on Sally being on this quest that, like I said, got established in the first season, and going from there. So I like that idea. I like that concept. I really, really do. I like the fact that they went there, because, like I said, they could have left the Nagus thing out there for us to ponder, but they didn't. They kept it going. They kept it around, if you will. They kept it around. They kept it, they kept it there as something to go back to several episodes later, and they did. And speaking of Nagus, when we first find out about him, and we see how Robotnik is worried about this guy, and you go into the flashback to when Nagus is being sent into the Void, and Robotnik is supposed to bring him back afterwards, but that doesn't happen. You kind of get the idea, and the comics kind of capitalized on this a little bit, later on. And I think they hint, well, yeah, they hinted on it and they capitalized it on it later on in their own way. But as far as the cartoon is concerned, you kind of get the idea that, Robotnik was charged by Nagas to usurp the king to, basically, basically lead this coup, if you will, in a takeover of Mobotropolis, but that he was supposed to do it not for himself, but for Nagas. You kind of get that that vibe. You get that feeling that that's exactly what the plan was, and this is all basically, hinted at, if you will. And sorry about that. I hit the slider with my keyboard on it, but this is all kind of hinted at later on. Like I said, this is all kind of hinted at later on, if you will, in the Void episode, because you see Robotnik taking over in Blast of the Past, right? You see it happening, and you find out how it happened and all that. But then with the Void, you find out exactly what obviously who Robotnik was originally supposed to, take over. And sorry for the lag there, or at least on my part it is. My computer is loading right now. Apparently it's got to load an update or something. But like I said, you find out in the Void that the original plan, obviously, for the coup was for Robotnik to take over for Nagas. But like I said, the Void episode did a lot. Like I said, not only did it follow up on Archie and his situation being in the Void, not only did it follow up on the list of freedom fighters which the king gives Sally, if you will, but it also sets us up for the Doomsday Saga. So it did three good things in a row. Did some three great things in a row. It followed up on Archie being in the Void, bringing him back out. It followed up on, the list of freedom fighters that was acknowledged in the first episode, as well as it set us up for, hyped us up in a way for the upcoming Doomsday Saga. As well as from a character perspective, it kind of brought full circle Sally's quest to, her side quest, I guess you could say, to find out the whereabouts of her father. Because, like I said, it's established in the first season, she knows her father's out there, but she just didn't know where. And now, in this episode, she gets the idea of, this is where my father's been the whole time. And, even though we don't see it, I'm guessing she pretty much, I'm assuming in a deleted scene, figures out that Robotnik's the one that sent her there. Not her, but Robotnik's the one that sent her father there, after he took over. So I'm assuming they wrote that scene in there, but they didn't animate it. It's just an opinion. Just my opinion on there. But yeah, the Void did a lot. The Void did a lot of stuff here. It followed up on a lot of things. It set us up for a lot of things. It was just a great episode overall. One of the best. And then, of course, like I said, you take out the filler episodes, of the Antoine shorts, and then you focus on the final 4 episodes, and as well as the 2-part of Blast of the Past. And you throw in their No Brainer, you throw in Sonic Conversion, Game Guys, you throw in Dulcie, if you will, that episode based on Dulcie, if you will. And overall, the second season was, as much as I hate to say this, because I thought the first season was good too, but the first season, like I said, was basically meant as an introductory season to, what was going on, who the characters were, or as well as reassurance that these were the same characters you were currently reading in the comics at that time. Even though the episodes were great there, like I said, all it really was just introducing us to what the whole situation, going on at that time. And the second season is when it really picked up, when it really started to, basically hit it out of the park, if you will. Every week it started to hit it out of the park, and it was just like Homer after Homer after Homer after Homer, and I can't say anything bad about it. I can't. I will say this though. I will say this. Okay, I will say this. Basically, this is the way I look at it. If there was one thing I would change about season 2, and I've always stuck by this, in my opinion. If there's one thing I would change about season 2, is that I would put the two-parter Blast of the Past first and foremost. That's what I would have done. I would have used Blast of the Past 1 and 2 as the premiere of season 2. That's what I've done. That's what I would have done. I would have done back-to-back episodes for season 2, of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic SatAM, and I would have used Blast of the Past to fill those slots, if you will, those time slots. And I think honestly it would have worked. I really do. I think it would have worked. I think fans would have been cool with it because one, not only do you get an epic story, one of the best, in the series, if not one of the best, two-parters, in that time frame of animated or live-action cartoon series, Saturday morning or weekdays. But you also would have gotten an idea of, what was, how this all came to be. You would have gotten a great, two-part season premiere, where the story, the gist of it was you have your two main characters of Sonic and Sally going back in time and going back to the day of when Robotnik took over with the original idea to try to stop him. And here's the thing that's always been interesting about Blast of the Past, if you will. Not the fact that I would have kept it. I would have made it the season 2 premiere, for an hour, basically back-to-back episodes. But here's what's always been interesting and theorized by a lot of fans when it comes to the episode. And that is the fact of, was Sonic and Sally there when it all happened? Now, you might say, well, of course they were there. They were kids when it happened. That's true. That is true. But when people look at Blast of the Past, when they look at this two-parter, and they look how basically Sonic and Sally, the adult versions, from the future, kind of helped kind of helped and inadvertently, I should say, helped it. Hold on, that's the phone again. And that's my mom. I'll be right back. Hello?
But I feel so bad for her because I think he was sick and stuff, but she didn't expect that. But from what I understand,
They only came with the Wells Fargo and the Wells RBE tax.
people can't access it. Probably, I don't want it. I want the actual paper. So anyway, okay, so that's good. That's good, Brian.
Yeah, and then my job called, and my orientation is going to be at 1. And the thing is, she asked how late I could be there because they want me to do computer stuff as well. And you look at reminder of that. And she was cool with it. She said, okay, can you stay till 6:45 because the latest the bus will be there at 7:11. And I said, yeah. Yeah, that way, I'll be here for her a little bit before I leave, but I'm going to have to leave at 11, or at least about 10 minutes to 11 to catch that bus to go to Patterson and to go to Prower. Oh, I'm going to have time, Mom. I'm going to have time to get lunch. Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe I don't know. Yeah, she's very understanding. She even laughed a little bit when I said, yeah, I wouldn't woke up early because I go over, everything. Well, I said I would have had to leave early. I said, yeah. What?
Yeah, well, that was good. You're being honest. It's something you do. They understand. They like to see too. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Got it. Okay, sorry about that, guys. It's just my mom. She likes to call in during her break, her first break, as well as her lunch. But what was I? Oh, yeah. The theory that people have going around is, Sally and Sonic, were there, when Robotnik took over. And again, as I was mentioning before the phone rang, people will say, oh, well, of course, they were kids when it happened, right? Yeah, yeah, that's true. They were, but the theory is it wasn't just kid Sonic and Sally that was present when this happened. It was also adult Sonic and Sally that came from the future that inadvertently changed some things or inadvertently caused some things to happen. Like, for example, Rosie, if you will, Rosie, the nanny, according to Sally, was originally roboticized when they were kids. So what did she do? Obviously, as the comics allude to later on, and we kind of get a hint here, Rosie was like the only family, that Sally knew outside of her father. And she basically felt like, well, I can't save my father, but I'm going to save the woman that raised me, the woman that was like a mother to me, that raised me and my friend, helped raise me and my friends. I'm going to save her. And that's what she did. But I also think, honestly, she did it because of the fact that she wanted some kind of figure, motherly figure, authority figure there to help keep Sonic in line as best. Sonic basically, and it says my connection is unstable. Please wait while we reconnect. I do apologize for some lag, guys. I don't know what's going on. I'm thinking it's because the computer is loading, guys. But anyway, like I said, in Hedge, like I said, the episode where Tails officially becomes a freedom fighter, because one of the things we noticed in season 2 is he's training. He's being trained by Sonic. He's being trained by Sally. He's being trained by Bunnie, which I'm assuming is his only trainers, his initial trainers, that is. And because those are the only ones we see him training with, honestly. So basically, long story short, in Hedge, Sonic reveals that he promised Tails that he can go along with them on this mission, and we find out that the reason he promised Tails could go on this mission because Tails is the one that had come up with the idea to basically trick Robotnik to create a false Power Stone, for Robotnik to believe is a real one, so that they could basically go and get the real one without a problem, if you will. Oh, I see. I just read it right there. the Reddit page or the Reddit connection that I have here was being updated in the background. That's why a lot of things was lagging. I do apologize for that, guys. But anyway, like I said, Tails is the one that comes up with the plan to create a false stone that tricks Robotnik and everything, and thus, allows the Freedom Fighters to get the other Power Stone, legit Power Stone, for their own, and thus, basically officially helps make Tails a Freedom Fighter in the process. But the reason I bring this up is because when Tails tries to ride with Sally and Dulcie, and Sally's like, "No, you can't go," and then Sonic reveals, "Hey, I said he's cool." Basically, basically Sonic reveals he's the one that said it was okay, and then Sally goes back and kind of counteracts that by saying he's 10 years old, and Sonic then counteracts that by saying, responds to that by saying, "Well, hey, I was doing solo acts when I was 10," and then Sally's response was, "Yeah, without permission." And when she said, "Yeah," when she tells Sonic, "Yeah," or basically agrees with Sonic that, "Yeah, you did do solo missions when you were 10, but then adds on the caveat of without permission," she's basically telling Sonic, she's basically telling us, the audience, that Rosie was there when they were kids, and that Rosie would reprimand Sonic at 10 years old for going off on his own, but he would still do it. So that's why when you look at Blast to the Past, and as I was saying, Sonic and Sally inadvertently or somewhat purposely help change things, and the adult Sonic and Sally being there when this all happened, Sally referencing the fact that Sonic would go off solo at 10 years old without permission indicates that the memories of not having Rosie there at that age and now having her there because of what she did in the past has started to manifest into her mind. Like memories she didn't have before are now there, kind of deal, which falls into the theory that a lot of people have had about Sonic and Sally, as I mentioned, the adult versions, the 15, 16-year-old versions of themselves, and the fact that they were there when it happened and that they helped cause inadvertently or purposely some of the events that went down, like Robotnik getting his arm roboticized. Sonic caused that, although nobody can remember it because, because I guess time paradox or something, nobody could remember it. Snively losing his hair thanks to Sonic speeding off, and Snively telling him, "You're going to pay for this," and yet, Snively doesn't point out to Sonic, "I know that you did this to me," because he can't remember if this is legitimately the Sonic he ran into. You get what I'm saying? Basically, the theory is going around when it comes to this episode is Sonic, like I said, Sonic and Sally were there, when it all happened, but because of the fact that they helped change things, the fact that Sally got Rosie to stay in Knothole as promised because Rosie recognized her right off the bat, thus knowing she was from the future, and all that. And, again, like I said, with Robotnik getting his arm roboticized and this happening and all that, there's basically, like I said, there's a theory going around that they were there when this all happened. They were there when all this happened, but they weren't there when certain events took place. Like when, like I said, the King got set into the void, when Nagas got set into the void and everything. But, but initially they were there when it took place. They were there when it initially happened. I mean, this would explain why Sonic has such a vendetta. I wouldn't say vendetta, but has such a passion to want to rid, the world of Robotnik, rid Mobius of Robotnik once and for all, because he was there, his adult self was there in witnessing, not just his adult self, but his child self. His child self was there witnessing his uncle getting roboticized. And that the same would have happened to him if his future self wouldn't have come to his aid. And I do apologize for any kind of lag going on here. Like I said, if not on your end, my end, because my computer is deciding it wants to load right now. It's deciding it wants to load. It's basically telling me, let me do the update and I'll be happy. Kind of deal. Let me check something here, guys. Let me check something. Guys. Yeah, I'm everything's fine. The recording's fine and everything. What it is lately with this is just like when it's loading something, it's like, wait, gotta do updates. It's like, why don't you just put a message across the screen saying, we're doing updates right now. Do not do anything. It would have been easier, but they don't do that. They don't do that. And it's just basically loading a lot of stuff right now. But as I was saying, because I know it's still working, the recording that is, basically Sonic and Sally, like I said, the theory is that they were there. They were there when it all happened. But because of some of the events they helped cause Oz in the past, they kind of helped cause change, if you will. And there's an indication that things are loading because I just saw a little load circle there on the screen. But basically because they helped, like I said, inadvertently change things or purposely change things or whatever, and because of the time paradox or whatever, they can't remember the the effects that they had. Like they're getting these new memories coming in, like with Rosie now being there and everything, and then some other stuff, and they can't. And because these new memories are showing up, they can't initially, as I check something here. Yeah, I think it's loading. It's doing a virus scan or something. But like I said, they can't remember the effects they had in the past, which again backs up my claim, if you will. Backs up my claim that Blast of the Past should have been the first 2 episodes, should have been the premiere of season 2, if you will. It should have been, like I said, the premiere, of season 2. And I don't think anybody would argue. I do apologize for this, guys. Apparently my thing wants to load right now. There it is. I do apologize. I don't know why it always picks these times to do this. Oh, that's why. Apparently somebody decided to hack the stream here. I don't know why that happened. Apparently somebody decided to hack the stream. I do apologize for that, guys. I do apologize. Somebody's been I don't know why they want to hack the stream. It's like I mentioned in the one video I did to Alex. I did for Alex in response to what Alex said in one video, and that is we got a bunch of trolls out there. So yeah, I do apologize for all that, guys. Apparently, something was going on. Someone was trying to hack, if you will, and I do apologize for that. But yeah, let's get back to this. Let me just make sure everything is fine now. Again, I don't know what. I do apologize, guys. But anyway, getting back on topic before all that messed up. I don't know where that came from. Yeah, it's so weird. But anyway, like I was saying, like I said, the theory basically going around with the episode is, you know, and again, like I said, this is why I feel it should have been the premiere, because of the fact that, you know, I feel it's just such a good story. Is the fact that you have, Sonic and Sally in the past inadvertently, if not purposely, changing things, and because of that, even though they were there, they can't remember being there because of some time paradox or something that rearranges the memories of things. Because here's the thing: when you look at the episodes that follow, even during the Doomsday deal, they never reference being in the past. They never reference going back to the past again. I mean, Sally basically, you would think she knew they went to the past because she had Nicole download the roboticizer plans. That's following up on the fact that they want to create their own they want to create the de-roboticizer. But what's interesting is some could say that the reason she downloaded those updates, into Nicole, is so that her future self, which is the one that did it, when they get back to the present, or in the future, or in the years that follow as she gets older, her past self, as she gets older and becomes, who she is, in this, as we see in the first and second season, will have the plans already on file to be able to try to figure out how to create a converter, a de-roboticizer, to help others. So, so we could assume, and again, this is part of the theory, that the reason it's assumed that they were there when it happened is because how else is she having these plans of the roboticizer to create a de-roboticizer unless she gave them to herself and she just can't remember? It's a possibility. It's a possibility, guys. And again, I do apologize for all this craziness that happened. I do not know what is going on sometimes. I just wish people would stop, trolling and hacking people's live streams and everything, and move on, if you will. Just move on. But anyway, though, like I said, getting back to what I was saying about Doomsday, a lot of people liked the episode, and if it wasn't for the ending, people said it would have been a perfect ending, But we got the ending, and as we found out, the eyes, according to Ben-Hur, belonged to Naugus. But according to one of the people that worked on the series at that time as well, that was interviewed by Jacob Berkeley, the SatAM historian, basically they were originally meant to be for Knuckles, which would have made sense when you look at the design of the eyes. It would have made sense that could have been Knuckles, maybe even Metal Sonic. But Naugus, I think, was just, in my opinion, was chosen because he had already been established. He'd have been established in the Void episode, and it made more sense to go back to him, especially with the fact that it's established that, as I mentioned earlier, that Robotnik fears him, and that basically it's the idea is that Robotnik was originally supposed to take over Mobotropolis for Naugus, not himself. So, so there's So that's that situation right there, if you will. So that's that situation right there. But yeah, and the third season, the ideas that the things that were planned for that. I mean, Nagas, the originally the third season, which is currently being brought to life by the people at Team Season. That's SEA3 numeral 3ON, and basically they're trying to finish where they're trying to continue and finish where Ben Hurst left off. Not just do a web comic, which they started many years ago, several years ago, which is really, really good, but basically now trying to adapt said comic into animation form. And honestly, you look at some of the animation tests they've been delivering, it looks identical to the original series, identical to a T. Backgrounds, character designs, you name it. Now, here's the thing, though. When you look at what the original concept would have been, the original concept, if you will, Tails apparently would have been, would have matured more and came into some greater power. Nagas again would have played a role. Obviously, Knuckles was going to be a factor, if you will. Like I said, Nagas would have been a factor. And everything. Robotnik obviously would have played a factor, maybe even be. I think there was speculation that he was going to be brought back as the main villain again at the end of season 3. Had they done 2 additional seasons, but I don't know. And I think there was speculation that because Knuckles was going to be brought in for the 3rd season, that as we progressed into a potential 4th season, that Amy Rose would have showed up as well. So I can assume that when we look back at what would have been originally the plans and, the concept and plans for the season 3 originally, basically they were going to introduce the Chaos Emeralds. They were going to bring in Knuckles. Nagas was going to play a huge factor. They were going to obviously probably set Robotnik up to come back and be the main villain of season 4. Once again, they were going to introduce another potential love interest for Sally to be like a rival for Sonic, that's giving us a love triangle, which, by the way, I did a video on this, and I believed, and I still do, just based off the way, he's just standing there and looking at Sonic and Sally kissing and making out at the end of, towards the end of Doomsday with them all aglow thanks to the Power Stones and the fireworks coming out. My assumption and my belief is the person that would have, been a rival to Sonic for Sally's affections, even though it's established that these two are an item officially now, would have been Antoine. I don't think that, because here's the thing, I don't think they would have brought in anybody new. Just to say, I don't think they would have brought in anybody new. I don't think they would have made Ari, the love interest. I don't think they would have done that with Griff because they've been there, done that in the first season. I think, honestly, it would have been Antoine. Because, again, you just see him there standing, being like he's not smiling. He's not, he was clapping at first, but just very not enthusiastic. Like, he's happy they won, but he's more like, and everything. And then you see him just like this. And to me, I think obviously that right there was the hint. That right there was the hint of who was going to be the love interest for, basically the rival for Sally, I should say, to Sonic. Now you might say, well, how is Antoine supposed to fill that role? There's no way. Here's the thing. Antoine showed he could be brave in Spyhawk, which finally got him what he'd been wanting: attention, appreciation, attention, affection, if you will, and a kiss from Sally. That's all he's been wanting. Just appreciation and affection by Sally, followed by a kiss. That's all he wanted. Even if it was on the cheek, that's all he wanted. And yes, in Spyhog, he let it go to his head, which, as Sonic, tells Sally, or Sonic kind of alludes to Sally when her and Bunnie arrive, and she's wondering what happened, and Sonic's like, tell you later. You can only imagine that Sonic took her aside finally when she asked, okay, what happened with Antoine? Oh, when they got back to Knothole, or were flying back to Knothole, and she's probably asking, well, what happened to Antoine? Can you imagine that flight back home where she kind of has to, break the silence a little bit, maybe, and she has to ask, okay, what happened with Antoine? And that helps Sonic kind of like, and that kind of does, help Sonic get out of the sad mood of leaving his uncle behind. But, kind of, allow Sonic to kind of be himself again. Can you imagine the flight home where he's like, oh, yeah, that's Sal. You remember that kiss you gave him because he saved you? And Sally could be like, yeah. Yeah, that. Or, well, basically, what I'm trying to say is, can you imagine the conversation either on the flight home after they kind of, break a little bit of the silence, kind of like, kind of, break the glass, if you will, or whatever, kind of lighten the mood. Can you imagine the flight home or when they got home and, Sonic's feeling a little better and then Sally's asking him, okay, what happened with Antoine? Can you imagine Sonic looking at her and be like, yeah, you remember that kiss you gave him because he helped save you? And Sally could be like, yeah, what about it? And Sonic could be like, well, what I'm trying to think about what I'm going to say here, but what he would say in the cartoon. Or what he would say in the cartoon. Okay. This is what I think would happen. Okay. And this is why it leads into what I'm talking about Antoine being potentially that love rival, to Sonic for Sally's affection, for Sally's love in season 3. Like I said, in Spyhog, Antoine finally got what he wanted, got the affection, got the admiration a little bit, got a kiss and all that. And of course, he let it go to his head, much to his detriment. So can you imagine the flight back home, or even after they land back in Knothole and things kind of cool down, or things kind of settle in, and Sally's asking him, okay, can you tell me what happened with Antoine? Can you imagine Sonic just looking at her going like, yeah, you remember that? Oh, yeah, you remember that kiss? Or can you imagine, okay, like I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say is, can you imagine Sonic, or Sally, after everything settled down, like either the flight back home or after they got back home, Sally asking him finally, okay, what happened to Antoine? What happened there? Can you imagine Sonic's reaction to her or answering her by saying, oh, yeah, you know that kiss you gave Aunt saving you? And Sally could be like, yeah, what about it? Sonic can be like, well, what I was afraid would happen, happened. It went to his head. And that's it. That's all you have to have Sonic do. You just have to have Sonic kind of bring up, like, during the flight to kind of break the mood or kind of break the silence a little bit, lighten the mood. You could have Sally ask, or Bunnie ask, so what happened to Sugar Twan there? So, Sugar Hog, what happened to Antoine there? And then, but Sonic could be like, oh, and then Sally could be like, yeah, what happened there? And then suddenly that could snap Sonic out of his somberness, and he'd be like, huh? Oh, yeah, right, about Ant. Oh, yeah, right, about Antoine. You remember that kiss you gave him, Sal, for saving you? And you could have Sally, and she's flying back on like, yeah, what about it? And you could have Sonic be like, well, it went straight to his head. And that's it. That's all you have to say. That's all you'd have to have Sonic say. Basically be like, just tell Sally if she's asking in a deleted scene, extended scene, whatever you want to call it, of what happened there. Because Sonic's like, I'll tell you later. Can you imagine Sonic telling her either on the flight home or when they get back, if the things settle down or lighten up or settle in? Can you imagine Sonic telling her, yeah, that kiss you gave Antoine, Sal, for saving you? And Sally could be like, yeah, what about it? Sonic can say, well, what I feared would happen, happened. It went straight to his head. And there you go. That's all you have to do. You just have to have Sonic, along with maybe Bunnie and some of the others, like Rhoda, be like, yep, kind of back him up on that by saying, yeah, that's what happened. You kissed him, it went straight to his head. And and you could have Sonic or maybe even Bunnie be like, and this is why we tell you, Sal. Oh, heck, make it Bunnie, who's our best friend, be like, yeah, Sally girl, that's why we're telling you never to, when it comes to Antoine, a hug's better than a kiss because that's going to go to his head, or whatever. Basically, I know it sounded like I rambled there, and I do apologize, but again, just imagine that scene. Imagine the flight home, or when they get back, and Sonic finally tells her what happened. Why Antoine was acting the way he did. Points out that the kiss she gave him went to his head. Oh, that to me would be gold just to see. That would just be gold, if you will. But again, I know like I say, rambled on there. I do apologize. But again, like I said, to me, when I look at Ben-Hur saying he would have had a rival for Sonic's rival to Sonic for Sally's affection, creating a love triangle, I can't help but look at the fact that it would have been Antoine. Again, you have Spyhog pretty much show that he can be brave and everything, and helping Sally and trying to prevent her from being noticed when they're trying to drain the tankers of the fuel and all that. So I believe that, again, why bring in somebody new, unless it would be Knuckles, but why bring in somebody new? Why bring back somebody we already know of and everything that, just all of a sudden out of nowhere develops an affection or redevelops affection for Sally? Why go there, if you will, when you already have somebody established in Antoine, and that this could be the season where, he kind of breaks out of his shell. Not only does he not only does he develop, not only does he get strong character development and become more brave, but you could finally just have him, have it up to here with Sonic. And just basically, like we see him do to Jeffrey St. John, I think what is in issue 46, 45, I believe, 46, I think. Have him just go, boom, right to Sonic, right in front of Sally. And, Sally's wondering, Antoine, what was that about? And even Sonic's wondering, what the heck? Where did that come from? And you can have, through the character development, you can have Antoine going like, listen, you fool, I have had it up to here with you. You see, I have shown that I could be brave. I've shown I could take things more seriously than you. And it should be I that is with the princess, not you. Not you. And I'll tell you another reason why, too. Because I am a royal guard. And by subtraction, or whatever word he would use, he could be like, and by subtraction, by subtraction and tradition, should be the one and only one with the princess. Play into his, play into that, if you will, play into the fact that he is a royal guard, technically, and that by subtraction, because there are no royal princes and all that he's the only one by royalty, through royalty, that should be legitimately and traditionally with the princess. And you could just, like I said, you can have him do that moment where basically, he just says he's with Sonic, and that he maybe challenges Sonic to a traditional duel to where the winner wins the heart of the princess, which of course he would lose anyway, but still, you get the idea. You get what I'm saying, right? Because again, you look at how he's, just acting, like he's just standing there, expressionless, at the end before we cut to the cliffhanger ending. When Sonic and Sally are kissing, the thing is, you see how expressionless he is, and it's like, you could just tell he's not thrilled, he's not happy, he's pissed, if you will, or so. He's just, I wouldn't say he's pissed. He's just not thrilled that Sally chose, Sonic over him and everything, despite showing some bravery and all that. So, to me, again, one of the plans that he had Ben-Hur had from his own words, in his own words, I should say, was to create a love triangle, and I think it would have been Antoine that would have been the rival, because again, you can't bring in somebody new that nobody knows of. You can't suddenly make Ari affectionate towards Sally, based on their history. You can't make Griff reaffectionate to Sally if you wanted to bring him back. Thank you, trans fan. Really appreciate it. But you can't bring Griff back and have him reestablish himself as a potential suitor for Sally. To me, Antoine would have probably been the best choice, because again, he's just standing there, and even before then, when everybody's clapping and celebrating, he's just doing this, like he's not really that thrilled and everything, and then you see him just standing there expressionless. I mean, come on, trans fan, if you're watching, do I not have a point that Antoine would have been that third person in the love triangle? Because I think it would have made more sense. Go with someone established, and thus in the process, you character develop that guy into somebody that people would be invested in. Just my opinion. But yeah, obviously there was a lot of plans potentially that would have became a reality officially had the third season been given an opportunity in some shape or form. And now Team Season, are the ones behind it, and or at least trying to be behind it and trying to get it off the ground. And if you're wondering exactly how that's going to happen, I'll put it this way: have you seen the independent animated series known as Hell of a Boss and Has Been and Gulch and all that? Have you seen those? There's your answer. That's how it's going to get on the air. That's how it's going to get seen. Once the episode is complete, at least the first episode or two, that's how it's going to get seen. Or that's how they're going to get seen on the Team Season YouTube page. Or at least a new YouTube page that has the episodes, right then and there to watch. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion on it, if you will. But here's the thing, though. Thank you, trans fan. And let me ask you this, trans fan, and anybody else watching currently in the live stream or watching later on, why do you think I have that point? Why do you think I have a good point there, in your opinion? But anyway, as I was saying, thanks to the comics, though, we kind of got the character development for Antoine. He did finally find love with Bunnie, who eventually he did marry officially, despite the ups and downs they went through. And that love that he's been wanting, guess what? When you compare it to Sonic and Sally's, it's been around forever, been around since the beginning. The comic would always break them up, put them back together, break them up, put them back together, and all that. And the animated series, pretty much, acknowledged that there was something between them, even at the beginning with the pilot, throughout the first season, and then really hammered it home in the second season, especially at the end. But when you look at theirs compared to Antoine and Bunnie's, except for that roller coaster that we had for what was it? 22 issues, if you will. 22 issues. Honestly, and this is a straight up fact, Bunnie and Antoine's relationship was the longest lasting one in the comics, even lasting into the soft retcon and reboot. And that's a fact. That's a fact. But yeah, thankfully the comics kind of picked up the slack. I think a lot of the people on the comics like Ken Penders, whether you like him or not, especially what he did to, as some people would say, sabotage Ben-Hur's idea to try to get SatAM season 3 up and going in some capacity. But you have to kind of acknowledge that the people behind SatAM, behind the comic, probably read the notes that Ben had and been like, yeah, we could do that here, but do it in a different way. Similar, but different. And they did, in my opinion. They did. From what I can tell. And I do apologize for any lag guys. And what I'm trying to say is I do apologize for any lag guys that's on me. It's either on my side or it's on the internet, my internet provider's side. And also, I do apologize for the hiccup earlier. For some of you that are just joining in and been like, okay, what's all this blankness here, big old space? Apparently, I had another troll come in and try to hack the stream. You know how that is. Had to report it. But yeah, thankfully the comics, like I said, came in and picked up the slack. And like I said, speaking of the comics, like I said at the beginning, this year, the mid-summer to early fall will mark 30 years since the comics initially began under the Archie banner. And that's hard to believe. That's hard to believe that it'll be 30 years this year since the comics initially started under the Archie banner. And what a journey it's gone through. Excuse me, what a journey that it's gone through. I mean, the comic, of course, started out basically as a hybrid of adventures and SatAM, but then it started to become more SatAM like. And as soon as SatAM got canceled, unfortunately, they ended up going into their own directive, just like Archie Comics did with TMNT Adventures, where at first it looked like it would be based somewhat on the late 80s, mid 90s cartoon. After a few initial issues based around that, they went in their own direction. And after a while, the comics did the same thing. They took the SatAM core of the SatAM atmosphere, experience, and storytelling, and applied it to the comics, but turned it up a notch, tenfold or 100-fold at times. And there were some great stories. Endgame, Iron Dominion, if you will, Darkest Storm, the Sonic Adventure adaptation that they did. You name it, they had some great stories and stuff in there. And sometimes they even had some great character development for the characters. Like I said, Antoine, like I said, is one of those characters that got some great character development. I mean, you look at him and you say, oh, wow, this character is, you look, well, basically what I'm saying is you look at his character at the beginning, just like in the Saturday morning cartoon, and you're like, oh, this character is, not that good. He's a annoying character. But then you look at the development he gets in the comic, and it's like, holy crap, where did this come from? You know what I'm saying? And it's just great to see. And it's just great to see. And a lot of people were happy, like I said, that he got together with Bunnie, because he was always looking for love, and he finally found it. And it was Bunnie that was the one that confessed to him that she was in love with him. She had fallen for him, basically. She had fallen for him. And we got a hint of this back, I think it was in issue 29, or not issue 29, but issue, what was it, 24, 28 or something? We got a hint of that there. And that was pretty cool to see. And then it came full circle. But like I said, Endgame was a great story, to the point that Ken Penders did a director's cut for one of the Sonic Super Specials, basically taking some of the side stories that explain certain situations that happened during Endgame and putting it all together. I mean, this comic gave us a lot of great stories. It really did. I mean, even when Ian Flynn came on board, he gave us some good stories, some great developments and all that, great scenarios and all that. Got to give him credit there. The one hiccup, though, that I'll always feel like he could have done better with and had the potential to be good with, it's like everything was set up right. The potential was there to be good. It's just that the execution went off the rails, and that was the Mecha Sally arc. That was the Mecha Sally Death Egg Mark II World Tour 2 arc. Again, it had the potential to be good. The storyline was set up to be, the storyline basically was set up to be great. The potential for that storyline to be executed was good, if not great, but the execution, when it happened, fell flat on its face. And that's the truth. It fell flat on its face. And no one here, I think, can deny that. I know some people did like it, but I think overall no one could deny it. And then when the soft retcon and reboot happened, yeah, it was disappointing to see certain aspects of, the previous regime of the Archie Sonic, kind of be, pushed to the side, erased, if you will. But what we got afterwards, I thought was all right. I thought it was fine. I love the fact that we got some focus on Nicole with Spark of Life. I like that kind of storytelling, if you will. I like the fact that when they did the little origin stories, and again, Spark of Life is Nicole's origin story in 4 parts. But I like the fact with the little origin stories, it kind of gives you a retelling of how things came to be, but now with this new world, this new set of memories that the characters have. And, I thought that was great. The only thing I think would be criticized, or has been criticized by a lot of fans, is the predictability of how everybody was getting the memories back. With the exception of Sonic and Eggman, Nicole was the only other one that knew of the previous world. And, basically, she ended up being the deus ex machina, if you will, the key to restoring everybody's memories, because when Naugus touched her portable form, he ended up getting zapped with the leftover of the Genesis wave that she absorbed somehow. And thus, not only did he get his memories of the past world in it, integrated into his mind, which caused him to run off in a panic, like, oh my God, what the heck's going on here? I'm scared to death. But in a sense, it also initiated the fact that she was going to be the key to restoring everybody's memories, because now she had knowledge of not just the current world they were in, but the previous world. And even though that was a predictable direction to go, I thought it was a good concept, because you're putting focus on Nicole. You're giving her more of a legit purpose than she's ever had. Not saying she didn't have that in the pre-reboot towards the end. I'm not saying that. I mean, she had great development there. Don't get me wrong. But here in the soft reboot, they went Ian Flynn and Evan Stanley and Leah Baker. I'll give them credit. They took it to another level with her. They said she's going to be a main player, and she was. And speaking of Evan Stanley and Leah Baker, apparently when Ian Flynn did the Mecha Sally arc, that got him in trouble. That got him in trouble to the point that when the soft retcon and reboot happened, guess what? He couldn't write primarily for the female characters anymore when it came to the stories. Whether it was stories featuring them, stories focusing on them, he couldn't really, add his own element to it. He had to utilize or use the elements given to him by his wife or by Evan because of what he did with the Mecha Sally arc. And basically that's because a lot of people, even though there was some that liked it, a decent amount of people, there was a lot more that didn't. And, the reason being is because a lot of fans, basically mostly young female fans, looked up to Sally. They loved Sally the way she was, and they didn't like what happened here or happened there, which is why apparently, according to rumors and reports and sources, Ian was not allowed to, write for the female characters anymore, at least write the lines for them. He had to basically allow his wife and Evan to do it, and then he wrote everything else to work around it. And that's about it. But the comic overall, though, besides that, and the soft retcon reboot, I thought was good. I thought it was really good. I'm not denying that. I'm not really denying that. Now, was the comic without its issues? Not really. It was not without its issues. In fact, speaking of Ian, one of the decisions he made, later on, not later on, but basically in the early tenure of his run, was one decision that fans felt just doesn't make any sense. It did not make any sense. And that decision was to turn Fiona heel. And here you had a character that during the Ken Penders, Carl Bowler's run, before Ian came on board around 160, he was a character that was basically being written to redeem herself. She was being written in as a new member of the group, and she was being written, as a subplot to kind of redeem herself from her past, and be a good girl now, be a freedom fighter, do what's right. And it did, and for a while, and when Ian came on board, suddenly that started to change, because in his first initial issue, you have the freedom fighter suspicious, I should say. You have the freedom fighter suspicious of, of Fiona because of Fiona's history with Salute Doggy Dog, Bean and Bark. You have them very suspicious, like, okay, you need to start talking, girl. How do you know these characters? What's your connection? And the moment they did that, or the moment Ian wrote that scene in, it's like, great. It's like, well, I wouldn't say it was like, great, you're going to screw up this character? We thought you would be, our saving grace, which he still was to a fault. He was still to a fault, except for a few things, like I mentioned, like the Make a Sally stuff and all that. But, we thought obviously he was going to be the saving grace, right? He was going to be the one that understood where the fans were coming from, what the fans wanted. But the moment, when you look back on it, the moment he had that, scene where Sally was accusing Fiona for, okay, what's going on with you guys, with you and Bean and Bark and Sleuth, what's going on there? Looking back on it now, you knew that was all part of that was all part of Ian's plan to turn Fiona heel. And it just didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. I mean, the fact that you have Scourge in one of the follow-up episodes, kind of basically come out and say what he did, about, hey, I'll see you later, babe, kind of stuff, and Fiona's trying to deny it. It's like, where did this suddenly come from, right? It's like, where did this suddenly come from? It just did not make any sense whatsoever. It did not make any sense, whatsoever, for this to suddenly just come out of nowhere. And again, as I mentioned in that Super Chat Q&A live stream that I tried to do several days ago, which, by the way, Super Chats are open and encouraged if you guys want to donate $1 to $5, and that being Super Chats or Super Stickers, would be really great. I'd be really appreciative of it on the day before I go to work. But like I said, in that one that I did, what was it, 4 days ago, apparently? Yeah, 4 days ago. Like I said there, it just did not make any sense. And the only reason he did it early is because he wanted to have someone to oppose Sally, that would stand alongside Scourge as his Sally. When Ian could have easily had Alicia Acorn, a.k.a. Anti-Sally from Moebius, the name for Mobius in their world, or create a new character to fill that void. You didn't have to take Fiona and put her in that position. Now, I know some people might defend Ian's decision and say, well, it made him more intriguing and more interesting. I'm not denying that. But guess what? She could have been that same way, intriguing and interesting, as a freedom fighter. You didn't have to go that route. Now, I know Ian honestly probably believed that, by making Fiona this way, made more sense than, just her coming out of nowhere and being part of the team. And maybe he does have a point there, but the thing is, it didn't make any sense when you really think about it. I mean, her being part of the team, and obviously what they were setting up to explain why she was there. I mean, honestly, I think they even did. I think even before he came on board, they did. They had her kind of explain to Sonic why she was a freedom fighter, or why she wanted to join the team, kind of accepting the fact that he is everything he says he is, and that he didn't mean to leave her behind and all that. Her making that, her giving that explanation in the earlier issues before Ian came aboard, made a lot of logical sense, and then that just got tossed away. It just got tossed away, and it felt like why? Because you wanted Fiona to be, Scourge's answer to Sally. Yeah. Look, it made her character more personality-wise, made her more intriguing and stuff. But like I said, you could have done that with the Freedom Fighters. I mean, the way you could have done that is you could have had her, sneaking off, not seeing Scourge or anything, but sneaking off, trying to find some intel, spying Robotnik, get information they need. And then as soon as she's confronted for not telling them where she's been going or why she's been doing it, if they find out, that's when you could have that development that you had her doing with Scourge start to, manifest itself. That's when you can, that's when you can have the, that's when you can have the character, and again, I'm getting more of these. Don't know why. And everything, don't know why. Another person trying to come on with some hacking and all that. Kid, if you're doing this, stop. But anyway, like I was saying, basically you could have had her sneak off, and instead of seeing Scourge, you could have had her sneaking off to get intel, spy on Robotnik, get information that's needed that the Freedom Fighters could utilize, I should say. And then when she's confronted about not only sneaking off and not telling anybody, but also not informing them of what she was doing, even though she was doing it for the benefit of the team, that's when you could have that personality, that that character development and personality that she developed or brought out of herself when Ian had her turn. That's when you could have had it come out as well, and by doing so, you could have the Freedom Fighters not only in story be surprised of, whoa, I didn't know you had this side to you, or I didn't know you had this, side to you whatsoever, and everything. Not only could you have them surprised by her, reaction, like her outburst, like, hey, I'm doing this for the benefit of the team. Stop getting on me about, stop, chastising me for doing something that I'm trying to do to help us. If you, went in that direction by having her, bring out that side of her, that basically, again, that was brought out when she was, Ian had her turn, it still would have worked. Because like I said, in story, you could have Sonic, you could have Tails, Sally, and all of them be like, whoa, we didn't expect this side out of you. And then over time, and then after kind of outbursting, you can kind of have a calm down, be like, well, look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I, got emotional there, or I'm sorry for that outburst and everything, but, I'm just trying to help you guys. And here's the result of me trying to help you. And by having that outburst, that's the first step in getting her to have some decent character development that you gave her during the turn that she had, and and that's aligning herself with Scourge. It would have made sense, that way as well. Now, I know some people might say, well, Ian did it because apparently there's speculation that Ken was planning to make Fiona and Tails an item. And look, I'm not denying that he didn't have plans to do that. I'm not denying it. I'm not denying that he wasn't planning to do that. But here's the thing. Okay? Ken Penders had already hinted at the fact that Tails, was, attracted to an older female, and that an older female, by extension, was attracted to him. Barbaryi Koala, anybody? Barby, Barbaryi Koala, anybody? Yeah, from the Down Under Freedom Fighters, introduced in, the Tails miniseries. Yep, that character. She developed an attraction, affection, and love, literally love for Tails. I mean, Sonic even says it himself at the end of that issue, at the end of that story. He pointed out to Tails like, hey, that Barbaryi Koala, she really digs you, man. And Tails is like, really, you think so? Cool. I hope to see her again. And look, and here's the thing. If Ken Penders was teasing that, and honestly making it work, appropriately, not weirdly, or not like, ooh, that's weird and gross and all that. No, he made it work appropriately and respectfully. So if he could do that, and look, I know people would say as he got towards the end of his run on the book, he went off the deep rails, or he went off the deep end. And that's people's opinion. That's fine. But if he can make that with Barbaryi Koala and Tails work, then I don't doubt for a second that he wouldn't have attempted to do the same thing with Fiona and Tails. Because he would have. He would have, and I think everybody watching this knows it. That he would have done it. He would have done it. And he would have found a way to make it work. I mean, honestly, when he did Mobius years later, who did he pair up Tails with? Mina Mongoose. Someone else that was older than him. And you're thinking, why? What's the deal? And my thought on this is Ian looks at these, not Ian, but Ken Penders. I'm sorry if I said Ian Flynn moments ago. But Ken looks at it from a more realistic standpoint. A more legitimate, realistic standpoint. And that legitimate, realistic standpoint is that age is only a number when it comes to love. Like, age doesn't matter when it comes to love. As long as you care about somebody deeply, that's all that matters. And apparently that's what he wanted to, prove here with putting, teasing a Tails Barbaryi relationship, showing us, even though it was meant to be a joke originally, showing us a Tails and Mina relationship in the future, as well as even, teasing and probably getting ready to follow through with a Tails and Fiona relationship. Thus, again, proving that love knows no number when it comes, to it. That love knows no age, if you will. Or romance knows no age, knows no number, if you catch my drift. The thing is, with Tails, again, I get why people would say Ian did what he did because he didn't want, to have to follow through on what Ken was originally planning. And that's fine. That's fine and everything, but still, as crazy as it sounds, I think had Ken stayed on the book, he would have found a way to make it work. Just like he did with Mina. Just, even though it was an inside joke originally, just like he did with Barbaryi Koala, he would have found a way to make it work. He would have. And there's no joke about that. He would have found a way to make it work. And if you don't believe me, there's a lot of fans, as I've mentioned before, that have wrote comics. S. Chalvis, I think is her name. S. Chalvis. That's SCHAVELS. S. Chalvis. She did a comic based around that where Fiona made a return, surprised Tails, after a few years, kissed him on the lips and said, hey, Even if it takes me 1,000 years, I'm going to prove to you I'm back to being a good girl. I'm not a bad girl anymore. And, if you have fans like her, if you have fans like, Fox Knight, even though it's a very erotic, very adult, take, of a story, willing to go out of the way to kind of redeem Fiona in some capacity, in some capacity, if you will, it just proves to you that not everybody liked the turn. Not everybody liked the turn because, again, it did not make any sense. It didn't. It wouldn't, like I said, it would have made more sense if she was disappearing to do a reconnaissance or whatever it's called, reconnaissance mission, get information she needs, bring it back to the freedom fighters. And even if she's caught by Sonic wondering where you've been, and then he sees what she has, and then everybody else shows up wondering, okay, where have you been? We've been, wondering about your whereabouts. And then, basically getting on her for, hey, what's, and then seeing what she has, and then asking her, why didn't you tell us what you were doing? You do realize it was dangerous. What could have happened? And then in that moment, have her, do that outburst where you start seeing the first stages of the character development she would get with, her alignment with Scourge. If you would have had to do the outburst in that way or get that character development started in that way, even with her apologizing for the outburst, it would have been a better choice. It would have been. It would have been a better choice. And look, if Ian Flynn didn't want to go down the route Ken was teasing with Fiona and Tails, he didn't have to. He did not have to. He could have just had a moment in an issue where Sonic and Fiona realize that it's kind of awkward with them dating because, Tails still has these feelings for her, and that until Tails grows out of it, it'd be best if they just, part ways and be friends. And that's it. Even though working together would be awkward as well, they would find a way around it. And that's the truth. I mean, look at Sonic and Sally when Ken and Cole decided to break them up for a bit. They found a way to work together, without a problem. And over time, they kind of reconciled and became, close friends again, which led them back to being back together. Thank the Lord on that. And you could have, maybe had Fiona go with somebody else. Like maybe, heck, here's the thing. Ian's so proud of the fact that he and Aaliyah were able to get away with pretty much a very, visual, evidential scenario of Sally and Nicole being, LGBTQ towards each other, bisexual, attractive, if you will. He could have started that with Fiona. He could have given Fiona a lesbian girlfriend if he wanted to kind of start her in another direction. He could have done that. And it wouldn't have been a problem. And it would have worked. It would have been more accepted instead of what we got. But again, it's just one of those scenarios to where, look, you got great character development out of the character. There's no doubt about it. But, you could have done it a better way. You could have done it in a way that made more sense than what this was. Because, again, it's like, you try to make it sense. You try to make it sound like, it makes sense and everything. But if that was the case, and everything, you could have had her go and tell all the girls. Because here's what he's trying to, because here's what Ian, and I don't know if he's going to listen to this, here's what he tried to justify with it. That basically she knew, evil Sonic was not the real Sonic. Just the way he was, just the way he was acting. And if that's the case, why not just tell all the girls, yeah, Bunnie, that Sonic you slept with in the meadow, or you spent time with in the meadow, that was evil Sonic. Amy, that guy that was flirting with you, that was evil Sonic. Mina, that was evil Sonic. Instead of having her hide it and be like, ooh, I'm attracted to the bad boy here. I like this, evil Sonic over the real Sonic. You could have had her redeem herself. You could have kept her redemption going, I should say, by having her expose the truth. And then when you have her, disappearing and going off and doing her own thing, again, you could have made that to where she was trying to get intel on Eggman to help the freedom fighters. And when she's confronted about, hey, why are you disappearing without telling us? That's when you could have the outburst happen, thus starting the first steps to the character development and everything. Starting the first steps to the character development, have her apologize for the outburst, but thus setting the table for, hey, she's redeeming herself. She's becoming a good girl. She's becoming a freedom fighter. But hey, she's going to have these outbursts that over time is going to help develop her character to be more outspoken and more open than she originally was. And it would have worked better. It would have worked better. And then again, you could have broke her and, Sonic up mutually to where, like I said, it could be awkward for them to be together because Tails still had a thing for her. And, after that, if you want to still put Sonic with Sally, that's fine. And then by extension, give Fiona a lesbian lover. Because again, Ian's proud of the fact that he and Aaliyah, snuck in, made it obvious, made it very obvious with Sally and Nicole in the soft reboot. Why not, test that out with Fiona and somebody in another female character? Maybe an Amy Rose, which I doubt Sega would have allowed, but maybe an Amy, maybe a Nicole, who knows? Maybe a Loop. Well, Loop was married, but you get the idea. Or maybe a new character entirely that you want to bring in. Maybe Mina. There you go. Have her start something with Mina. Take the two characters that, Ken was pairing up with Tails originally, during his run, and say, hey, I'm going to put those two together as a lesbian couple. And that's the end of that. Problem solved. Problem solved. Okay? Problem solved. Problem solved. Very simple. You have her, realizing that the Sonic, because it's like, what is it, 3-4 easy steps that could have been executed? One, she realizes that the Sonic is flirting with all the girls, including her. It's not the real deal. That it's the evil one. Then and thus you have her tell all the girls that have been around them that this is not the real Sonic. Two, you have her go off, do her disappearance act and everything, but do it because she's trying to get intel. And then when she gets caught by Sonic and the others, for not, and then kind of accused for not telling them what she was doing, especially because of how dangerous it is, you could have her do the outburst, thus creating the beginning stages of her character development, which she does apologize for. 3, you have her and Sonic mutually break up, not break up because she's going with Scourge, but mutually break up because of the awkwardness of being with each other because Tails still has a thing for her. And then 4, if you're still planning to put Sonic with Sally, then by extension, you could put Fiona with a lesbian girlfriend. That's, you want Fiona to be in a relationship, give her a relationship with Mina, the other girl that Ken had teased pairing Tails with in the years later future. Problem solved. Problem solved. 4 easy steps, problem solved. But he didn't do that. And, and honestly, I don't know if he regrets it or not. I don't think he does. But I'm sure that if you give it a chance to kind of change things up again and do it the right way, he probably would. Because like I say, you look at all these fan fiction stories, these comics and all that, web comics. Yeah, fans are pretty much fixing it themselves. They're like, yeah, Ian, we love you. You're doing some great work with the Archie and the IDW books, but yeah, this Fiona turn just don't work. It doesn't make sense, period. But yeah, you have elements like Fiona's situation, which fans felt was, executed wrong and shouldn't have been done, period. And then, of course, you have, like I said, what goes on in the soft retcon and reboot, with the Sonic Unleashed, the Sonic Unleashed Shadow World Crisis arc, which was good. I will give it that, which was good because it felt like their own individual stories, even in 2-3 parts. They felt like their own individual chapters of a bigger story. In Panic in the Sky, the finale to the entire arc, I thought was really good. And some of the spin-off Sonic Universe stories that they did, I thought was great too. Spark of Life, like I said, stands out as a great example of, not only featuring some Sega characters, because that was the mandate, like, hey, you're going to focus on Sally and Nicole's relationship, you got to have some Sega characters. That's Tails and Big. But still, Spark of Life I thought was great. And yes, it did very heavily, tease or indicate that Sally and Nicole may be more than friends. Just saying. Just saying. But, you have that. And then even pre-soft reboot and all that, you had the miniseries like Princess Sally miniseries. You had the Tails miniseries. You have the shelf worth of Knuckles miniseries, if you will. But all of them were good. The Sally one was good. The Tails one was good. The Knuckles one, depending which ones you want to choose, they were good. The series itself that it sprung from was good. And then, of course, you had the super specials that they did. Those were good. Some of them were expansions to stories and continuity that need to be expanded on. Some of them were director's cut, like, the one for issue 6, which was in a cut of Sonic 50. These kind of spinoffs and all that were good. And then you had all the trade paperbacks that came out, doing Ian's run and doing Pender's run. You had all that, and it was great. It was tremendous. I mean, I liked the specials. I liked the beginning of the soft retcon and the ending of it, if you will, so much that I basically took the issues that pieced together to create these big pictures, and I took these collages that people put together or that were done for promotion, and I basically, when I worked at Walmart, I put them together, or I printed them out as posters and hung them up. That's how good they are. Heck, I got a variant cover of, 283, the Guardians variant cover, and then I got the cover. Well, 292, I think, when they were going to do the Freedom Fighter deal, which was gonna be used for the Freedom Fighter spinoff into Sonic Universe, which I thought was a great concept too. They were originally going to because here's the thing: the plan originally, had the comic continued, was they were going to spin all the Freedom Fighters off into these separate Sonic Universe arcs or stories that were going to be that were basically comprising of one arc. Each character was going to have an issue, and they were going to be teamed with, of course, a Sonic game character. Like Antron was going to be with Sonic. I think Rhoda was going to. I think Sally was going to be with Tails. I think going to be with Blaze. I think Amy was going to be with Rotor or something like that. The idea was great. The idea was tremendous. I mean, Sonic and Antoine, Archie Sonic Online already did the version of that. Blaze and Bunnie. Sally and Tails, I think. Amy and Rotor. What better elements for Sonic storytelling than you have than that? Or was it going to be Sally and Amy and Tails and Rotor? I don't know. It could have been either one of them. But what better idea for a Sonic Universe arc than that? Because you're not only, following the mandates of saying, okay, we're, going to have Sega characters in there, but you're also basically, and I don't know what happened there. I do apologize, guys. I don't know what happened there. That was weird. Like I said, my computer's kind of loading and all that, so I don't know what happened. I think it's trying to do an update and all that. I do apologize. But anyway, like I said, the concept was good. The concept was really good because, again, you're staying true to the mandate of, okay, we're going to have Freedom Fighter character. We're going to have game characters in there to be alongside these other characters in which the story's truly going to focus on, the spotlight's truly going to be on. Because again, you're going to have Blaze teaming up with Bunnie. Oh my God, I would have loved to have seen that. And I can't wait for Archie Sonic Online to make that happen. But I would love to have seen that. You know, who wouldn't? You know, who wouldn't have loved to have seen that? And we know the spotlight would have been on, on Bunnie mostly, but Blaze is there because of the mandates. Same with Sally and Tails, or Sally and Amy. Spotlight would have been on Sally, except, the difference is you have Tails and Amy there because of mandate. Same with Rotor and Tails, or Rotor and Amy. Spotlight would have been on Rotor, except, Rotor was there because of mandates. End of discussion. But I would have loved to have seen that. And again, I cannot wait for the Archie Sonic Online to do that themselves when the time comes. I cannot wait for that. But overall, when I look back at the history of this comic, as we celebrate its 30th anniversary, and also which leads us into the 30th anniversary next year of Sonic SatAM, when I look back at this comic, guys, I look at a comic that not only entered the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest running licensed comic book based on a video game of any franchise. Not only do I look at something that made history by doing that, as well as having Amy and Sally acknowledged as the longest love interest ever, or Sonic's love interest in the Guinness Book of World Records. But I look at a comic that with Sonic Prime coming out, I look at a comic that could be easily looked at as an alternate world, thus bringing this comic to life, bringing whatever the pre or soft reboot version of the characters to life, and people would go crazy for it. They would love it. They would love it. And this is why they're hoping we get the Freedom Fighters in some capacity in Sonic Prime. This is why they're hoping we'll get Sally showing up in an end credit scene of Sonic 2 or a future Sonic 3 movie or whatever. It's because of this comic and the show that, was alongside it. And 30 years later, since its debut, I can't think of a better comic to talk about, unless you're a DC and Marvel fan, which I am, but not to the extent I used to be. I mean, I have a second cousin named Joe Rosas that's a artist, or comic book freelance artist, if you will. He worked on some of the early X-Men issues in the 90s. But anyway, like I said, outside of those, I can't think of a better comic to talk about. TMNT's adventures in Archie were good too, and I love the fact that they included a female fox in Ninjara, which I thought was a great idea, despite the fact that she, didn't last long. She did last long, but she didn't last, as long as anybody would hope for, even though there were plans for her to come back during the City of War adaptation. The point is though, out of all those, I can't think of a better comic book series with a longer lasting impact to talk about than the Archie Sonic series. And like I said, the show that, ran alongside it for 2 years and really helped influence, the comic later on to take on those elements of, of the grittiness and the darkness and the matureness, if not by 10 or 100-fold when it came to Sonic SatAM. But anyway, though, guys, I just wanted to come on here, do this discussion, if you will, in celebration or upcoming celebration of the 30th anniversary of the Archie Sonic comic, which debuted this year, as well as the cartoon that followed it next year as well. So let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Thank you all for joining me in the live chat. Sorry for a lot of the lag and issues going on. Like I said, I had a couple of trolls in the live chat, hackers or whatever, trying to take over and everything. I do apologize for that. And also, I do apologize, like I said, for the lag, because my computer is kind of uploading a little bit, and it might also be my internet provider as well. But anyway, though, guys, thank you all for joining me. Check me out at my Teespring store. I'm going to try to put up an updated version of this shirt. This is a shirt I made for myself back in Kansas. I basically had one of those programs that you put you put the material, you don't put the shirt, but you put the adhesive material in there to print off the image, and then you use an iron to iron it on and everything. So yeah, I did this back in 2007, and I might be putting up an updated version of this on my Teespring store. So look out for that when it happens. But yeah, check me out at my Teespring store. Also check me out at BW Rose's Discussions and all your favorite audio podcast locations, except for Pandora. I am close to 300 podcasts, guys. This might be one of them. But yeah, check me out at BW Rose's Discussions. Listen on all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. And if you're listening to the podcast on Anchor.fm, listener support is activated. Would appreciate the support there. And also check me out on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon Music. If one of them, if not all three, give you the capability of not just audio podcasts, but video podcasts as well, you can have your option of one of the two there. As well as check me out at BW Roses on VENMO for content you can't get here on YouTube due to copyright issues. Also, check me out at BW Roses on Patreon to support me with a $1 or $3 tier. I am considering a $5 tier for Q&A in the future, but don't hold me to that just yet. Just, I'm still considering it. And if I make that announcement, I'll let you know. Especially, but I don't know if that's going to happen for quite some while because I'm going to be starting work soon. Also, check me out at Venmo at Brian-Walmer-2. But anyway, though, guys, thank you all for joining me in the live chat. Again, comment down below if you're watching this later after it's live streaming broadcast, if you will. Love to hear from each and every one of you, your thoughts on what I had to say. And until next time, guys, I'm going to get me some lunch. It's about 3:34 p.m. Pacific time. Been doing this for almost 2 hours and 20 minutes. We're at 2 hours and 16 minutes and 41 seconds, 42 seconds. Again, I do apologize for any of the issues that came up. They're kind of beyond my control and everything. But until next time, though, guys, hopefully we'll have no issues when I do another live stream. And until then, I am out. Whoop, 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 whoop. She's back. Your time, Brian. I know it's got to load a lot. And she's back.
Sitting right over here, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Cummings is here. Bullshit excuse for being away for a while. Whatever. But sitting right over here, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Cummings is. Hey, she had this bullshit excuse for being away for a while. Whatever. But sitting right over here, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Cummings is here.